recent report about how race is currently talked about in the media and other public spaces.
This report, Moving the Race Conversation Forward, was released by Race Forward in January 2014. Race Forward is an organization whose mission is to build awareness, solution, and leadership for racial justice.
Moving the Race Conversation Forward is a report that describes some of the major problems happening in the media that distracts from or stop productive racial discussions in the United States.
This report talks about 7 harmful practices used by the media when talking about race. But today we will be talking about one harmful practice commonly used by the media, which is individualizing racism. This practice is defined by Race Forward as concentrating attention on thoughts or acts of personal prejudice. Individualizing racism is when people, especially the media, focuses on one individual and what they feel and think instead of what they did. The media is always busy targeting and concentrating on the individuals and not the systems.
Individualizing racism is a practice that distracts us from and stops conversations about race. The practice affects us because the media only focuses on if the individual's actions were racist or not. Then the media talks about it as if the individual was a good or bad person based off of what they did. The media only targets the individuals and not the systems. Instead of discussing about the individuals, they need to start talking about the whole issue. For example, 12 Years a Slave is about a man named Solomon Northup who was kidnapped and sold into slavery in the South. Or the movie Lincoln, which is about Abraham Lincoln who is trying to abolish slavery through the 13th Amendment. These films, while covering historical events, feature slavery as a decoration for a party. Discussing the reality of slavery and its impact is much more useful conversation than guessing at Paula Dean's thoughts and feelings in her heart.
Another example of individualizing racism that my partner and I discussed is the Michael Brown case. Michael Brown, an 18-year-old from Ferguson, Missouri, was shot by a white police officer named Darren Wilson. The media coverage concentrated only on if Officer Wilson had a good reason to shoot or not, instead of focusing on what Officer Wilson did as an individual. The media could have talked about how Officer Wilson was working with them. According to Ta-Nehisi Coates from the Atlantic magazine, a monthly American magazine that focuses on foreign affairs, politics, and the economy, as well as cultural trends. The police and court worked together to purposely discriminate against people of color to obtain revenue for the city of Ferguson. For example, the Ferguson police officers waited for people of color to give them citations, like parking tickets or even stop them for no reason. Thus, while the individual, Officer Wilson, was innocent, the media hardly reported that the city was guilty of serious systematic racism.
Race Forward not only names the problems currently distracting from and stopping Americans' conversation about race from moving forward, but also recommends 4 solutions to get the conversation back on track. 1. We need to expand our definition of racism beyond personal prejudice to systematic racism. This means that in the United States, racism has traditionally not been viewed beyond personal prejudice of a white person towards Black Americans and other people of color. While the media is concentrated on the coverage of racism and the outrageous occurrences between individuals, the systems forcefully limit access to resources, opportunities, and options for people of color. To expand our definition of racism, we should start to engage in conversations about potential systemic causes of racial disparities in our nation. Therefore, the media needs to increase the portion of systematically aware coverage to move the conversation.
We need to focus on actions and the impact of those actions over attitudes and the intentions behind actions. This means we need to start focusing less on intentions and focus more on the results of those intentions. Impacts are what have the most crucial consequences on people's lives, and that's where we, as America, can most successfully place our attention. It's best to put our focus mostly on impacts because you can't change everyone's feelings because you can change the results. Third, we need to discuss how race affects other national problems like social inequality, sexism, and other types of oppression, rather than ignoring how race affects these issues. This means that when talking about race, one cannot stop thinking about other types of oppression, such as sexism and ageism. Race does in fact affect these types of oppression. For example, a company hires a white woman and a white man. Of course, the woman is going to win less, about $13,000 less. But what if we add a racial lens? What if it was a white man and a black woman? If you think about it, the wage gap in racial perspective, the black woman would have gotten paid $17,812 less than her competitor. When thinking about these types of oppression, remember to add racial perspectives.
4. We need to discuss race in a way that acknowledges the humanity and the ability to lead the people of color have rather than making people of color either competitors or victims. This means conversation about race must include more choice of words, respective voices, diversity of perspectives, and knowledge of racism that makes people of color feel equal to their white counterparts. People of color need a voice. So what the media has to start doing is focus on the systems, not the individual.
Thank you for watching our video on individualizing racism.